It's all right to hop in. Everything is happening in the present moment, and these teachings are all about the present moment. So you are in the right place if you like to listen to this Buddhist style of approach to the nature of mind, the nature of our human experience. So if you're watching this after we're already live, you can skip ahead to the 10-minute mark, which is when we're going to formally get started. But for now, the space, we've opened it up and we'll give people the time to join in over these next 10 minutes. And whoever is here, who is already here, the time to settle in and also to say hello. We're getting some fresh air today. Hopefully everyone can appreciate the fresh air for our session together. Today we're going to be taking a few moments of meditation to start, just to turn inward, to be with ourselves. After that, we're going to dive right into the reading. We're going to listen from the heart. I may offer some personal considerations from my perspective, from my 7 or so years of experience in meditation and Buddhism. And then after we finish with this reading, we will have a bit of a guided group meditation for about, let's say, around 20 minutes. So it should be a good time. Should hopefully be an accessible time. And a very sincere hello to Jacob, Jeff, Catherine. Hey there, Joseph, Maylee, Francis, Joni, Asha, Anna is here, Nino is here. Death Mammal is also here, so we have that to appreciate as well. So how's everyone doing today? Anything to share before we get started? Anything to say or to express in the live chat? Hey there, Nikki. And we are streaming live from the Meditation Village, as I hope you can see. Well, look at that's a much better view than inside the temple, I think. It's nice to have the fresh air. Hey, Fernando. It is a nice view. This is Italy. I've really fallen in love with Italy since I've been here the past week and a half or so. Really appreciate Italy. All right, Nino, great to hear that. And Joseph, connecting with your suffering. Nino, maybe you can connect with the impermanence of your satisfaction. Or rather, connecting with the satisfaction of impermanence. Hey, Santiago, welcome. And if you're here participating wholeheartedly, don't forget to like. It can help some other people come across this video, this stream perhaps. Don't forget to like and subscribe. And all that stuff that goes along with the YouTube channel. Five more minutes before we really formally get started, so not to be perfect or to become enlightened, but just to really show up, just to really be here right now. As we give everyone an opportunity to join in. Mei Li, of course, it's okay to cry. Crying can be a very healing, a very beautiful thing. But it's also possible to overindulge in crying, to feed our sadness and to feed our crying kind of experience. And if we're just having this emotional experience and we're crying, just let yourself go through that for sure. But if you find that you've developed this habit of sort of perpetuating your own crying fits, I would say be careful about that, and we also have an ability to notice sadness, but not to feed it, not to indulge in it. So of course it's okay to cry. My goodness. It can be very healing and beautiful to cry. Hey Cosmic. I'll just show a little bit more of the view here before we formally get started. I don't want to keep this view all to myself. So this is the view from the Italian monastery that I'm staying at. It's a beautiful, beautiful place, and if you'd like to come and spend the summer in Italy, you've got a place to stay. You've got a place to stay. So anyone who's thinking about that cheeky post-pandemic Italian summer, just let me know, connect with me, and this view can be experienced directly. And of course, things are always so much nicer when we share them with our friends, with our community. And everyone here is welcome. Come by and have a cheeky post-pandemic Italian summer. That's what I'm hoping to do, but we'll see. We'll see how everything turns out. Okay, so as we reach the 10-minute mark, as we're about to reach the 10-minute mark, I did just want to share and express that the point here is that we are meeting together in community. And so right now, primarily through YouTube, but once I get back to the States and I have a little bit more access to technology, we'll host everything primarily through the Discord, and we will encourage people to use their cameras and to really have this intimate space, and maybe also more kind of room for questioning and discussion and making it more of a community exploration. But for now, for the next week or so, just keeping things on YouTube so it's the most accessible, and we do have a lot of people that actually watch these live streams after, on their own time. They tune in and watch it. So to have that for them, but once I get back to the States around the 20th, the week of the 20th, we'll have everything on Discord, but then we'll also be streaming to YouTube. So I think that will be a really great way to do it. I'll only be in Italy for about another week, and then I'm hoping to spend a month or so in the U.S. and then fly back to Italy for my Vasa, or for my rains retreat, which is like the 3-month period where monks don't really travel. Yeah, maybe someone could help Jeff out with a link to the Discord. And sure, you're welcome to light some incense. So I think today for our meditation, before we get into the reading, we'll try something a little bit different, which is more of a intentional, conscious breathing. So really tuning into our, uh, I don't want to say forced, but our kind of active breathing. Okay, so take a moment to get comfortable. We are watching, we're seeing this live, but take a moment to get comfortable, even if you're sitting in a computer chair in front of the monitor, whatever it is. And as we get into that comfortable position, we can kind of have our feet flat if we're sitting in a chair, or if we're sitting cross-legged, um, just sitting upright. And we can bring our hands into our lap. And then we're going to begin, and when we start intentionally breathing, we kind of have to, it might be a little bit awkward as we start because we're finding the breath where it is and we're kind of pulling it into how we want to breathe, right? But get a hold of that breath wherever it is. Take a deep breath in through the nose, and then as you exhale, exhaling, very expressive kind of release and exhaling. So breathing in deeply through the nose, gathering this attention of the body, and as you're breathing in that way, you can kind of collect the body, the shoulders up, and then as you exhale, the shoulders releasing, going back. Starting to feel the body. Starting to tune into the very direct sensory experience that we're having. We feel the body, we feel the breath, we hear sounds. And as we feel that our awareness of the body begins to become a little bit more clear, maybe feeling the heartbeat, we can let the breath find a natural pace, a comfortable pace, breathing in and out through the nose. Starting to step into this responsibility of having a body. This responsibility of breathing. The experience of it. And as we really start to get in touch with this responsibility, this having a body right here, right now, allowing our body to relax and to settle. Allowing our breath to find a natural, comfortable rhythm. Settling into having a body, breathing, being aware, being present, right here and now. And with that quite suitable, quite apt sound of the bell, we'll get right into our reading. Remembering to listen from the heart, listen in a way of humbleness. We're reading here from a text, a writing by Buddhadasa, who is a Buddhist monk, a meditation practitioner, a ethical practitioner for decades upon decades upon decades. And he wrote these writings from a place of wisdom, from a place of morality, from a place of insight. And it's not about worshiping this person, it's not about believing in them, but having that appreciation that there is wisdom in this world. There is insight in this world. And so to listen from a place of heart, sincerity, embodiment, as we dive right into the reading. If we were to give up trying to get or to be anything, how could we continue to exist? So if we were to give up trying to get or to be anything, how could we continue to exist? We can ask this question right now. If we were to give up trying to get or to be anything, how could we continue to exist? This is bound to be a major source of skepticism or resistance for anyone who has not given much thought to the matter or much consideration to the matter. The words getting and being are based on mental defilements, on craving, on maintaining the idea of worth getting, worth being. Activating the mind to get and be in real earnest. This is bound to lead to depression, anxiety, distress, and upset, or at least to a heavy burden on the mind. So we can think about people who are very caught up in their expectations, in their desires, in their thoughts about getting a job, a particular job, or becoming this certain kind of person, or getting rid of this person that they used to be. And naturally this leads to depression, anxiety, distress, upset, a heavy burden on the mind that we want to get something, we want to be something. But we can't quite do it. And whatever we do get, whatever we do become, is impermanent. So knowing this truth, we must be constantly alert, keeping watch over the mind to see that it doesn't fall slave to getting and being through the influence of grasping and clinging. Grasping is this trying to hang on to get, to become, to keep. It's a type of selfishness and also an ignorance of all is impermanent. It's an ignorance, it's the same ignorance that happens when you think that if you get this car, or you get this job, or you get this relationship, that now you will be happy. You get this particular thing that you want, this new iPhone. The excitement and the anticipation is very pleasurable, it's interesting. I can't wait to get this, it's going to be great. And then you do get it. And there's some excitement, there's some pleasure, but eventually it goes back to this is your life. That very, very special thing that you wanted to get and was going to help you become something special or happy or pleasurable, it just becomes another thing. And in fact, it becomes a burden, all the while being impermanent. So knowing this truth, we must be constantly alert, keeping watch over the mind to see that it doesn't fall slave to this idea of getting and being, through the influence of grasping and clinging. We should be smart enough to stay aloof from these unwholesome influences. If, however, we are not yet in a position to withdraw completely from having and being, we must be mindful and wide awake, so that when we do get or become something, we do so without entanglement, without emotional upset. So again and again and again, even if we're involved in business or in, for some reason or another, we're very caught up, we need to strive for something or we need to get something. If we find that we're still in that kind of way of living, that mindset, maybe just because of the conditions that we find ourselves in, there's this inherent need to compete and to struggle. If we find that we're in that position, we must be mindful and wide awake. So again and again and again, coming back to this present, this mindfulness, this wakefulness, this attentiveness, really being with it. So not falling more and more deeply into this story and this idea of what I need to be happy or what I need to be myself. Maintaining a constant state again and again and again of mindfulness, presentness, and wakefulness. So that when we do get or become something, we do so without getting entangled in it, without becoming emotionally upset when we inevitably lose what we get, or when what we get is not what we expected it to be. The world and all things have the property of impermanence, of worthlessness, and of not belonging to anyone. Any individual who grasps and clings to anything will be hurt by it. In the very beginning, when they first desire to get it or to be it, any individual who grasps and clings to anything will be hurt by it. In the very beginning, when they first desire to get it or to be it, later, while in the process of getting it and being it, and then again after they have got it or been it. All the time, before, during, and after, when anyone grasps and clings, they will be bound by this clinging as a chain and receive their full measure of suffering, as what they cling to passes away. So it's this kind of process, it's this kind of reality where the things that we desire, the things that we love, the things that we are infatuated by, we get wrapped up in them because we think if we get them, we will be happy or we will be peaceful. But in reality, we can't keep those things. We can't hold on to those things. So we will inevitably suffer because they are fundamentally impermanent, and they will remain to be impermanent. There is simply no way to get around this. And this is why all of those things that we can get or can experience are going to bring suffering. Because in that process of desiring them, we're entangled, we're caught up, we're not with it. And we, in that process of desiring and trying to get, we may actually find that we're, bumping elbows and causing suffering to those around us, which inevitably causes suffering to us because we're in this entanglement process of wanting to get, right? So we have these blinders on. I want to get this, and everything else I don't care. So we hurt people and we hurt ourselves in that process. Then you're getting it, you're experiencing it. Oh, it's so pleasurable, it's so wonderful. But an aspect of that pleasurableness is that you are wrapping around it. You are entangling yourself in it. It's not permanent. So those entanglements, that grasping, that clinging, is inherently suffering. It is inherently impermanent. And it's subject to impermanent, that thing that you're grasping around. So you're going to suffer while you're experiencing it. Suffering in this sense, dukkha, is not only experiencing pain or experiencing something that's unpleasant. It also carries within it this factor of impermanence. So naturally, something that is impermanent, temporary, is not totally satisfactory. And so even while you're in that experience, of getting what you want, exactly what you want, within that there is this suffering, this unsatisfactory nature, this impermanence. And then after you've gotten it, after you've been it, it's no longer there. But that entanglement about it is still there, that habit that you've cultivated. So now you're suffering because you don't have it. You're suffering while you're desiring it, you're suffering while you experience it, and you're suffering after you get it, and you no longer have it. Now, keep in mind, this is talking about very, very, very subtle qualities of mind. And we're going through this process constantly, all the time. I want this, I'm getting it, now I don't have it anymore. We're always going through this process. So it's not as simple as some doctrine or some belief system of don't desire anything, or everything is empty, or nothing is good. It's not that. It's talking about very, very subtle qualities of mind that bring about this sense of dissatisfaction, this sense of unpleasantness, this sense of bound by impermanence. And we want to be unbound. We want to be free, to act and live freely. We want to cultivate a sense of peace, regardless of the circumstances that we find ourselves in. So, on the very gross level, it's not about rejecting anything, gross versus subtle. It's not about rejecting anything. It's not about not having life goals, or not trying to do good in your life, or not putting forth effort. It's about letting go of this idea that you are going to get something and find happiness in it. You're not. This is your life, right here and right now. And so this is the practice. This is where we notice that craving mind coming up. This is where we notice that experience of, oh, I have this and I want to keep it. This is where we notice I no longer have it and I feel a sense of loss, of lacking. So it's a very, very subtle quality, and how we work with it is ethical living, being generous, being intentionally selfless, and then this meditation practice, what Buddhadasa talks about here, of this natural concentration and leaning into this naturally concentrated state of mind where we are mindful, where we are awake, where we are attentive to our moment-to-moment breathing. So it's not about no life goals, or you renounce everything, or you go and live in the gutter. It's a moment-to-moment attentiveness, and it's also this kind of wisdom that you're tuning into, that we all know, oh, when I get this TV, I'm going to be happy. No, you're not. And when you get it, it becomes a burden. And when you no longer have it, you feel unsatisfied. And this goes with substances, with alcohol, with experiences, with relationships. But it's on a very, very subtle level. So it's not rejecting anything. It's actually inviting you to get with it, to practice, to be here now, to be present. It's not to cut off all aspects of your life or be impractical. The world and all things have the property of impermanence, of worthlessness, and of not belonging to anyone. Any individual who grasps and clings to anything will be hurt by it. In the very beginning, when they first desire to get it or to be it, later while in the process of getting it and being it, and then again after they have gotten it or been it. So just let go of that. Let go of that misconception that, oh, I'm going to get it. I'm going to be happy. Desire, desire, desire. Having, having, having. Losing, losing, losing. Let go of that cycle as your main way of operating, and be aware, be awake, be mindful. All the time, before, during, and after, when anyone grasps and clings, they will be bound by this clinging as a chain, and receive their full measure of suffering, as what they cling to passes away. It is even the same with goodness, which everyone values highly. If anyone becomes involved with goodness the wrong way and clings to it too much, they will derive just as much suffering from goodness as they would from evil. In becoming involved with goodness, we have to bear this in mind and be careful to perform even good acts without clinging. So again, it's not this idea of rejecting your life or getting rid of your life. It's much more subtle than that. So even when it comes to goodness, to kindness, to goodness, that sense of clinging is the issue. In your life and in those things that you want and your life goals and all that, they are not the problem. Goodness is not the problem. Evil is not even the problem. The problem is this clinging, this contraction, this holding on to, this false expectation of the way things are or are going to be, rather than this experience of the way things are and being aware right now. So even with goodness, if you become wrapped around by it, if you become infatuated and clinging to this idea of goodness, it's going to bring you a lot of suffering because you are contracted. You've created this small view. And here in our meditation, in our practice, we're working on bringing about this open view, this present moment view. Leaning into our awareness nature. And it is this obsessive kind of desire, this obsessive quality of mind that we are moving away from. We're recognizing that quality of mind, and that's usually what people encounter when they first come to an event like this, or when they sit down on their meditation cushion. That sense of clinging, that sense of expectation is immediately there, and they get up. Awareness, and we are allowing ourselves to. A skeptic may ask, if nothing at all is worth getting or being, does it follow that nobody ought to do any work or build up wealth, position, and property? Anyone who comprehends this subject can see that a person equipped with right knowledge and understanding is actually in a far better position to carry out all tasks that need to be done in the world, rather than one subject to strong desires, who is foolish and lacking in understanding. This is vividly clear. A skeptic may ask, if nothing at all is worth getting or being, does it follow that nobody ought to do any work or build up wealth, position, and property? But anyone who comprehends this subject can see that a person equipped with right knowledge and understanding, a kind of wisdom, is actually in a far better position to carry out all tasks that need to be done in the world, rather than one who is subject to strong desires, who is foolish and lacking in understanding. So it is that way of being practical and not rejecting being practical, but also being very grounded in the nature of mind, the subtlety of our moment-to-moment living, and how that moment-to-moment experience leads to habits and false expectations and false thinking. In here spoken about as one being subject to strong desires, being foolish and lacking in understanding. We can certainly work and act in the world, but in becoming involved in things, we must do so mindfully. Our actions must not be motivated by craving, We can then allow whatever the results of our work are to flow out of this natural, unobsessive way. The Buddha and all their enlightened disciples were completely free of desire, yet succeeded in doing many things far more useful than any of us are capable of doing. If we look at accounts of how the Buddha spent their day, we find that they slept only 4 hours and spent all the rest of the time working. We spend more than 4 hours a day just amusing ourselves. If the defilements, the confusions, the misunderstandings responsible for the desire to be and get things was completely eliminated, what was the force that motivated the Buddha and all their enlightened disciples? They were motivated by discrimination or wisdom, coupled with good will. So discrimination or wisdom, really being with it, having an insight into how the mind works, having an insight into how to let go, how to be present, how to endure adversity, how to work with the mind in a way that stabilizes it and grounds it. So those enlightened people and the Buddha were motivated by discrimination or wisdom, discrimination as a kind of sharpness, a clarity, an ability to cut through the nonsense, cut through the non-practical, cut through the non-helpful or skillful, a wisdom, a deep understanding of the way that things work and the way that things are, coupled with goodwill or metta. Even actions based on natural bodily wants, such as receiving and eating alms food, were motivated by discrimination. They were free of defilements, free of all desire to keep on living in order to be this or to get that. But they did have the ability to discriminate between what was worthwhile and what was not, as the motivating force that sent their bodies out to find food. So discriminating and having a powerful capacity to discriminate, to consider, to live in accordance with what is worthwhile and what is not worthwhile. What's worthwhile to spend our time on and what is not. This is our developing of wisdom. And so for the Buddha, going out for alms round with this wisdom, if they found food, well and good. If not, never mind. When they were suffering with fever, they knew how to treat it, and did so as well as possible on the basis of this knowledge. But if the fever was overpowering, they also recalled that to die is natural, and that the body is ultimately not in control. Whether they lived or died was of no significance to them. The two were of equal value in their eyes, and so they were desireless. And this is not to reject, this is not to be negative, this is to be at peace in all conditions, and to have an insight into the nature of reality. Everything's impermanent. I'm impermanent. You're impermanent. So we settle into this natural awareness, this natural concentration, and we connect with it. We practice our introspection, our looking into, our noticing. If one is to be completely free of suffering, this is the very best attitude to have. There need be no idea of self as master of the body. Discriminating wisdom alone enables the body to carry on by its natural power. It is this discriminating wisdom which allows the natural unfolding of body and mental processes to occur and be seen clearly without grasping or desire. So this discriminating wisdom, this sincere looking, this present-mindedness. The example of the Buddha shows that the power of pure discrimination and pure goodwill alone is sufficient to keep a being who is free of desires alive in the world. And what is more, doing far more good for others than people still subject to craving. Defiled people are likely to do only what benefits themselves, since they act out of selfishness. By contrast, the deeds of enlightened beings are entirely selfless, and so perfectly pure, or rather, perfectly skillful. When the ordinary worldly person hears that nothing is worth getting or being, they are not convinced. They do not believe it. But anyone who understands the real meaning of this statement becomes emboldened and cheered by it. It's not a kind of depressing teaching. It's actually very cheerful. It's encouraging. It's enlivening. It is liberating. Nothing is worth getting or being. This natural awareness, this presentness itself, is more than enough. Their mind becomes master of things and independent of them. They become capable of performing any task in the knowledge that they will not become enslaved by it. The reason a person is usually incapable of doing their job perfectly, faultlessly, is that they are always far too concerned with getting something and being something, always motivated entirely by their own desires. As a result, they are not the master of themselves, and cannot be consistently good, honest, and fair. In every case of failure and ruin, the root cause is slavery to desire. To come to know the true nature of things is the true objective of every Buddhist. It is the means by which we can liberate ourselves. Regardless of whether we are hoping for worldly benefits, wealth, position, and fame, or for benefits in the next world, such as heaven, or for the supramundane benefit of nirvana, the fruit of liberation. The only way to achieve it is by means of this right knowledge and insight. We thrive on insight. In the traditional Buddhist texts, it is said that we become purified through insight and by no other means. Our path to freedom lies in having the insight, the clear vision, the direct seeing into that in all things there neither is nor has ever been anything at all of value, nothing to hold on to, nothing to get stuck by. We have things and are things only in terms of worldly relative truth. Commonly we say we are this or that just because in any society it is expedient to identify with names and occupations. But we must not believe that we really are this or that, as is assumed on the level of relative truth, or we can say created truth. To do so is to behave oriented and muddled and bite each other until they die. We humans, when our faces become covered with, when we are subject to all sorts of delusions and desires, become so bewildered and disoriented that we act contrary to how we would if we could see under ordinary circumstances, even killing, for example. So let us not go blindly clinging to relative truths that are essential for communicating in a society, but nothing more. We have to be aware what this body and mind really is, what its true nature is. In particular, we have to be aware of its impermanence, unsatisfactoriness, and non-selfhood, and make sure we always remain non-attached to it. To make sure we always remain not entangled, not caught up. So as the sun begins to set here, as darkness arises, as the bell rings, let us take a moment to turn inward towards our own personal experience of this impermanent, changing nature. To really look, to really investigate. And to do that, firstly, taking a moment to make sure that we are in a comfortable, suitable position. So take a moment to find that comfortable position, to get settled. In Buddhist practice, in Buddhist philosophy, we're not trying to adopt anything. It's not about believing anything, but rather these teachings are encouragements to look into, to turn inward and to be aware. So finding that comfortable position of the body, turning our attention towards the breath, feeling the breath coming in and going out. Noticing physical sensations of the body. Noticing thoughts. Sometimes the thoughts are quite fuzzy, quite vague. Sometimes the thoughts are very clear. But whatever those thoughts are, and whatever physical sensations we feel in the body, whatever sounds we hear, instead of getting involved in the content of those thoughts, or getting involved in the judgments of pain or pleasure, as we breathe, noticing all these different human experiences, returning back to the breath. And following the breath with all our attention, allowing this natural state of concentration to arise. This natural state of being attentive, aware. The practice here is noticing all kinds of different things, experiences, returning back to the breath, and allowing this natural state of concentration to arise. Utilizing that natural, open, concentrated awareness, that awareness nature. Be aware of the body and breathing. Noticing and breathing, being aware. Breathing and noticing, being in this natural state of awareness and non-reliance on reactivity. We spend plenty of time reacting, getting caught up in things. We don't need to do that now. Breathing and noticing as experiences come and go. No agenda, no expectation. No you, no I. Breathing and being aware. Noticing those thoughts, stories, those habits, all those different things coming up, and looking into them introspectively, aware of them, but not getting pulled in, not getting entangled. Noticing and returning back to the breath, being in this state of natural concentration, naturally being aware. noticing sleepiness, words, thoughts, noticing the feeling of breathing, the body, sounds, all kinds of sensations and experiences. Arising and passing away again and again. So as we notice, as we lean into this natural concentration, this natural awareness, breathing, being aware, noticing. There is no right or wrong thought. No true or false. Simply this practice of noticing, breathing. Breath by breath, returning back to awareness and noticing, rather than getting involved in our stories or our opinions or our preferences. We spend enough time doing that. Breath by breath, looking into this awareness nature. This spacious, open quality of mind. It's very natural for us. Being with that. And so now, opening our eyes if they're closed, seeing, hearing, having a body, we know about very well our thoughts and our stories, our preferences, our desires and our fears. We know about these things. But as we practice meditation, as we take these steps again and again into the path, we develop our wisdom, our ability to endure pain, suffering, our ability to come back, to return to our awareness, our mindfulness, and breath by breath, moment by moment, we embolden our relationship with, our developing relationship with our true nature, our awareness nature, our natural, open, spacious mind. So with that, you're welcome to join me in bringing our palms together and repeating after me if you like. May all beings be well, happy, and peaceful. May I practice patience, tenderness, and generosity. Moment by moment, breath by breath, may I always be mindful of my open, spacious nature. May all beings be well, happy, and peaceful. Moment by moment, breath by breath, may I walk the path and take care of myself every day. May all beings be well, happy, and peaceful. May it be so. May it be so. May it be so. Okay, my friends, as I fade into darkness, I want to thank everyone for coming together today and joining in this community practice. When we bring our sincerity and our heart and our effort and our real embodied presence to these kind of gatherings, we really are building a community. We really are taking care of ourselves. And even though we're not in the same room together, we can't see, hear, and be nearly to each other, when we practice sincerely in this way, we are together. So I want to really thank everyone so much for continuing to show up, for making this community robust and sincere and ongoing. I want to thank everyone for that. All right? So we will meet again tomorrow at 8 p.m. Rome time. Thank you so much for joining, and mindfully and compassionately, please enjoy the rest of your day, evening, afternoon, or morning. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Take care, everyone.